Hello everyone. In today's story, we followed CEO Tuan and Tieu Hue as they began a brand new chapter of their lives together in a peaceful countryside farm. Leaving behind the busy and stressful city life, they chose simplicity, love, and harmony with nature. Their journey started with a meaningful trip to the local market, where they carefully bought essential items like rice, vegetables, blankets, and daily supplies to prepare their new home. Throughout the day, we saw how their relationship grew stronger through small but precious moments, sharing laughter while shopping, helping each other choose groceries, and slowly learning how to build a simple life side by side. What started as an ordinary shopping trip turned into a beautiful memory filled with warmth, understanding, and love. On their way back to the farm, under the golden sunset sky, Tuan and Tieu Hue realized that happiness is not found in luxury or success, but in companionship, peace, and shared dreams. Their journey is just beginning, but their hearts are already deeply connected. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, don't forget to like, thumbs up, share, retweet, and subscribe bell icon to our channel for more emotional, romantic, and inspiring stories like this one. Your support helps us create more beautiful content for you every day. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story. At the early morning in the peaceful countryside farm, a thin layer of mist still lingered gently over the green fields, wrapping everything in a soft, dreamy silence. The sound of birds chirping echoed faintly in the distance, blending with the rustling of leaves as the first rays of sunlight slowly broke through the horizon. It was a calm and refreshing beginning of the day, but for CEO Tuan and Tieu Hue, this morning carried a special meaning far beyond its natural beauty. Today was not just an ordinary trip to the market. It was the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, a decision to live together and build a simple, honest life in the countryside farm they had chosen as their new home. After years of busy city life, pressure, and endless responsibilities, Tuan had decided to step away from the corporate world for a while, seeking peace and meaning in a quieter place. And Tieu Hue, who had always dreamed of a warm and peaceful life surrounded by nature, gladly chose to walk this path beside him. Inside the small wooden house on the farm, Tieu Hue was already busy preparing. She carefully folded a list of essential items they would need for their new life. Her handwriting was neat but slightly rushed, showing her excitement. She wrote down things like soft blankets, pillows, simple kitchen tools, rice, vegetables, cooking oil, and daily necessities that would help them settle comfortably in the countryside farm. Every item she wrote down was not just a product, it represented a piece of the life they were about to build together. Meanwhile, CEO Tuan stood near the doorway, observing her quietly. He was dressed simply today, without his usual formal suit, which made him look more relaxed and approachable. In his hands, he held a small basket and a pen, occasionally checking and adding more items to the list. Even though he was a successful businessman used to making important decisions every day, this moment felt different. It was not about profit or strategy. It was about life, comfort, and shared happiness. Tuan glanced at Tieu Hue and noticed the gentle smile on her face as she imagined their future life on the farm. That smile softened something deep inside him. He realized that this simple journey to the market was more meaningful than any business deal he had ever made. It was a step toward building something real, something that could not be measured in numbers or success charts. Tieu Hue, noticing his gaze, looked up and laughed softly. "We should not forget warm blankets," she said, her voice light and full of excitement. Tuan nodded and smiled, feeling a rare sense of warmth in his heart. Together, they double-checked the list once more, making sure nothing important was missing. Outside, the morning sun slowly rose higher, casting golden light over the farm.
The world seemed to wake up with them, as if nature itself was blessing their new beginning. With everything prepared, Tuan and Tieu Hue were finally ready to leave for the market, stepping into a journey that would not only fill their home with necessary goods, but also fill their hearts with shared hope and a new sense of belonging.
When CEO Tuan and Tieu Hue arrived at the countryside market, the atmosphere immediately surrounded them with a completely different energy from the quiet farm. The narrow roads were lively and full of movement, with small wooden stalls lined up closely on both sides. Vendors were calling out their prices loudly. Customers were bargaining with smiles, and the rich smell of fresh vegetables, fruits, and cooked street food filled the air. It was chaotic, noisy, and yet incredibly warm and full of life. For Tuan, this kind of environment was something he had not experienced in years. Coming from a world of high-rise buildings, luxury offices, and strict schedules, he was more familiar with silence in boardrooms than the cheerful chaos of a local market. At first, he stood slightly still, observing everything with quiet curiosity. But soon, as he looked at Tieu Hue walking happily beside him, his expression softened, and he began to adapt to the rhythm of this simple life. Tieu Hue, on the other hand, seemed completely at ease. She moved ahead with bright eyes, gently touching fresh bundles of vegetables and carefully checking the quality of rice and grains displayed on wooden tables. She spoke kindly with the vendors, asking questions and smiling in return when they gave her recommendations. Every small interaction made her even more excited about the life she and Tuan were building together in the countryside. Tuan followed her closely, holding a basket and occasionally pulling out the list they had prepared earlier. "We need rice, cooking oil, and more fresh vegetables," he said, trying to stay organized like he would in business planning. However, when he tried to choose between different types of leafy greens, he hesitated slightly, unsure which one was better. Tieu Hue noticed this and let out a soft laugh, teasing him gently. "You handle big companies, but you struggle with vegetables?" she joked playfully. Tuan smiled awkwardly, shaking his head. "Managing people is easier than choosing between two types of cabbage," he replied, which made her laugh even more. In that moment, the distance between CEO and ordinary life disappeared completely, leaving only two people enjoying a simple, shared experience. As they continued walking through the market, Tieu Hue began selecting items more carefully, explaining why certain vegetables were fresher or why some rice varieties were better for cooking. Tuan listened attentively, realizing how much knowledge she had about daily life. He admired her simplicity, her patience, and the way she understood things that he had never paid attention to before. Slowly, he started to get involved more actively. He carried heavier bags, negotiated prices with vendors, and even tried to pick fruits on his own. Although he was not perfect at it, Tieu Hue always encouraged him with a smile, making him feel more confident each time. By the time they had visited several stalls, their basket was already filled with fresh vegetables, rice, cooking oil, and other essential supplies. More importantly, their laughter and conversations had turned the busy market into a place filled with personal memories. It was no longer just a place to buy goods. It had become a space where their new life together was quietly taking shape. After a long and fulfilling day at the countryside market, CEO Tuan and Tieu Hue finally finished their shopping. The sun had slowly begun to descend, painting the sky with warm shades of orange, pink, and soft purple. The busy sounds of the market were now fading behind them as they loaded the last bags of goods onto their small vehicle. Everything they had purchased, rice, fresh vegetables, cooking oil, blankets, pillows, and daily necessities, was carefully packed. Though simple in appearance, each item carried the promise of a new beginning.
As they stepped away from the market stalls, Tuan paused for a moment and looked back. He realized how different this day had been compared to his usual life. There were no meetings, no contracts, no pressure of corporate decisions, only the honest rhythm of everyday living. Beside him, Tieu Hue adjusted the bags lightly and smiled, as if she could already imagine their life unfolding peacefully at the farm. The journey back began slowly, with the vehicle moving along a quiet countryside road surrounded by endless green fields. The wind gently brushed through the open space, carrying the scent of grass and earth. Inside, the atmosphere was calm and comforting. Tieu Hue sat close to Tuan, occasionally checking the bags to make sure nothing was damaged or missing. Every so often, she would hum softly, her voice blending with the peaceful environment around them. Tuan, usually serious and focused, now appeared more relaxed than ever. He glanced at Tieu Hue and noticed how content she looked, even after a long day of walking and shopping. Without thinking too much, he reached out and held her hand gently. It was a simple gesture, but it carried deep meaning. In that moment, no words were needed between them. "Today felt different," Tuan said quietly, breaking the silence. "Yes," Tieu Hue replied softly. "It feels like we are really starting our life now." His grip on her hand tightened slightly as he nodded. He understood what she meant. This was not just about moving to a farm or buying household items. It was about building a shared life from the ground up, away from noise, pressure, and expectations. A life where small moments mattered more than success or status. As the sun continued to set, golden light slowly wrapped around the fields, making everything look almost magical. Birds flew across the sky, returning to their nests, while distant farmhouses began to light up one by one. The world felt quiet, but not empty. It felt full of peace. Tieu Hue leaned gently against Tuan's shoulder, closing her eyes for a moment. The day had been long, but her heart felt light and happy. Tuan did not move. Instead, he allowed her to rest there, quietly appreciating the warmth of her presence. When the farm finally came into view in the distance, both of them felt a sense of completion. The home they were building together was waiting, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. As they drove closer, they knew that this was only the beginning of a journey filled with shared meals, shared dreams, and a love growing stronger with every simple day they spent together.